Hello there everybody, What Culture of Wrestling's Adam Clery here. Yes, wrestling is still a thing and so am I, so we must talk about it, mustn't we? Yes, that's right, NXT continues to roll on at a pace and there's still title matches, championship feuds and better yet, an upcoming takeover to get really excited about. Now, I know what you're going to say, it's a little bit hit and miss at the minute, isn't it, Adam? And to you I say, shut up. In fact, what I actually say to you is the beauty of a hit and miss system is a binary format not unlike ups and downs, which means people like me, who somehow make a living off this, have a lot to talk about. And this week, let me tell you, spoilers, was no exception. NXT was back, and thus so am I, and you're right, I have done better intros. So without further ado, actually before I start, I will say there's no entry in this video for the Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch versus Ever-Rise match because, well, what even was that? Like, Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch are in a good enough position where they didn't benefit from winning, and Ever-Rise are so lowly on the card they didn't get hurt by losing, so it was just the same as having, like, a match graphic saying, these two men still exist. So, it was functional. It got no score. Anyway, here's the rest of the video. Just, pause it there. Yeah, I don't know if anybody ever picked up on this, but in the intro to Ups and Downs, we have like a really quick clip of us all dancing with Shad and JTG at WrestleMania last year. So he's been in pretty much every single one of these videos in his own way, and we're all just really heartbroken at WhatCulture this week. The guy was just like the nicest person we met in this job, and we all stayed in touch with him. I spoke to him last week, so this week's been really difficult for a lot of us, and I think I speak for everybody at WhatCulture and probably just everyone in wrestling when I say we're really gonna miss him. Anyway though, NXT. Right, so NXT's a big boy now. It's been on television long enough to have developed its own little trademarks. Now, some of these are very good, and they keep people like you and me tuning in every single week, but some of them are, of course, very bad, actually with a capital V, B, and an A. They never seem to quite get the pacing right for the long-term stories, and they seem unable to push big feuds forward without a mass brawl, prior to social distancing, of course. So, gotta hold my hands up here and say they are getting pretty much every single beat of this Karrion Kross debut spot on. A few weeks of intriguing promos, a few little sightings off camera, then the backstage attack of Tommaso Ciampa, one of the most talked about entrances in wrestling in recent years, followed by a massive squash match. It's worked really well. It's all felt like a big deal, and thus, so has he. Now, NXT's usual bad habits told me that he would just be doing these squash matches for weeks and weeks until we were well bored of them, so to just do two before bringing Ciampa back in is lovely. Up. Kross still feels like a monstrous oddity, and we're not yet bored of watching him just pulverize men half his size, so they are striking while the iron is hot here, and I wish they would do that more. The next step in a perfect introduction is for him to have a banger with Tommaso Ciampa, and I believe that will happen. Also, shout out to Liam Gray, who was there as well. Nobody's gonna take that away from him. What can I say about the Cruiserweight Championship tournament that I've not literally been saying every single week since they launched it? My legs really hurt. Giving these guys a platform like this every single week, giving them a fair chunk of match time, has yielded incredible results every single week. They are one of the highlights of the broadcast, and framing it around something where there's actual stakes and an actual reason for these matches, but not a reason for them to do them over and over again, is just, it's great. Wrestling tournaments are brilliant. I don't know why they don't do them more. And the thing is, Tozawa versus Phantasma has a genuine claim, or it did at this stage of the night, to being the best match in the whole tournament so far. Beth Phoenix, she was like, oh, this is going to be a great contest of like lucha style versus Japanese puro, and it was like, is it? Is that what it's going to be? But it was. They had this great test of strength at the start, and then they moved into each other's respective styles, and then had a frenetic, scrambled finish. It was class up. Now, in the end, Phantasma hit the Phantom Driver, I think it's called, to get the win, and that is a shame for Tozawa, who every single time he gets any kind of platform in WWE, over-delivers. But everybody who's lost in this tournament has been so good, they're going to get something afterwards, and hopefully he is no exception. In other news, I made the mistake of going on the internet this morning. Turns out that a lot of people, and by people I mean crusty old men specifically, really did not like Shotzi Blackheart getting given a 3-minute long segment in which to drive around in a tank and crush some admittedly already crushed cars while comparing them to the rest of the women's roster. They really didn't like her saying things like, "I'm your daddy," and "I'm like a tank, because tanks don't give a shit," and "oops, looks like I squashed a pixie." They thought it was lame and hokey and rubbish, and somehow even worse than Scarlett Bordeaux lip-syncing on last week's episode, if you can imagine such a thing. And right, okay, so here's where I am with this. If Shotzi Blackheart pumping out punk rock cliches while driving a literal tank is somehow underwhelming to you, then there's probably nothing I can do. Like, the unique nature of pro wrestling means you can do anything you want with the characters, and if you just want everything to be sterile and real, then what the f*** are you watching it for? This was big, dumb fun, and if it somehow elicited some kind of eye roll in you, then I'm really sorry, but the problem is your boring life, not Dirty Blonde here. Ow, ow, ow! Just gonna make this next point really quick, because I've been over it loads in the last couple of weeks. Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae's heel shtick is high art. They insist they're the best man and woman in the company and yet can never back it up in the ring. They go after people being given these huge, unfair opportunities, and this week it was literally just Mia Yim getting a squash match against a woman who's hardly ever on the brand. This is a living pastiche of how little WWE's booking of heels makes sense, and they should win awards for it. Now, yes, between the criticism this gets and the way everybody kicked off about Shotzi Blackheart's tank, maybe I've just gone a little mad in isolation or something, but I genuinely think this is really, really smart. Like, when was the last time WWE booked any heels that made you desperate to see them get their comeuppance? They don't do it. You either secretly like them because they're just too good in the ring, or you're bored by them, and these two are not that. I want to see them get pulverized. Bottom line here, I am energized by how much I dislike these two, not just exhausted by it, so they get an up, and also fair play to Santana Garrett, who is apparently loads better than I remember her being. Good segment all around this. Just gonna interject here because occasionally some people will tweet me after these videos and be like, "Oh, you missed out this really short interview segment. Why is that not in the video?" And just because they're short and I've been talking about them for ages. So it's the backstage segment roundup section. Ta-da! Cameron Grimes, good but very short. Keith Lee, like I say, I hope he absolutely murders Johnny Gargano. Timothy Thatcher's thing, this story's all just too quick. Oh, what another fight, but not with pins this time because you beat me last time. Not buying that for 1 second. Matt Riddle's much more funny when he's trying to be funny rather than serious. And Damian Priest, he happened, didn't he? So there you go. There's your backstage segment roundup section with me, Adam Clery. Ta-da! Adam Cole walked in front of the screen at the only time it said Roderick Strong to tell you about how great he is and what a great champion he is. Now, for all I know, right, the implosion of the Undisputed Era might be months away, but there are so many clever little pieces already put into that puzzle. It's gonna be so good. Remember me pointing this out to you. I say this every single week now, but nobody on this earth has maximized their minutes quite like Dexter Lumis in the empty arena era of pro wrestling. The guy debuted in all of this, and now he's a bona fide established main eventer, and it doesn't even feel forced. Well done! This week, though, against Roderick Strong was the biggest test of him, because so far he's had these really entertaining squash matches, which are all just about looking at how he just never apparently seems to blink, and then they put him into a tag match, which was a bigger story than him, and he was just a nice little sideshow to all of that. But this time, there you go, in the ring with someone who's a great wrestler, and you can't get anywhere in NXT unless you're a really great wrestler, so off you go, do some great wrestling. And he did! He battered Roderick Strong here, absolutely battered him, and only lost because Strong's just this, like, wily veteran of the ring who can get a win out of absolutely nowhere. Lumis looked great in this match, looked great even though he got beat, and looked even greater when he just went and choked him out after the bell. This was not star-making, obviously, just a TV match in the middle of the show, but it was really good. Yep, hands up here, the man who said, "Why are you debuting people when it's like this, NXT? Just don't do it, save it for another time." And yet, Dexter Lumis' debut's been great, Karrion Kross's debut's been great. What do I know? So yeah, that match gets an up. Not taking this off because it's actually quite cold today. Loomis gets the yellow jacket, but do you know what was bad? It was tiny, it was inconsequential, it feels like a petty gripe, but bad nonetheless. This thing that happened. Right, so Velveteen Dream comes down to help Dexter Loomis, because apparently the whole him and Cole thing is still a thing. I don't want to talk about that. He super kicks him over the barrier, then gets on the top rope to jump off to hit the purple Rainmaker, right? And as he gets on, he jumps off and rotates counterclockwise in a frog splash motion like this. And then the camera cuts and he lands on Adam Cole like this. No. This is honestly the pettiest gripe I have ever indulged on an episode of Ups and Downs, probably, but it's just an unforgivable flub of continuity. Like, these things are pre-taped. You can have as many goes at that as you like. How the hell did nobody notice that he lands a completely different way to how he... If this was any other TV show in the world, the internet would have lost its mind over this. That is so... I can't not give that a down. From a production standpoint, it is unforgivable. I'm sorry. Oh my god, would you look at that? Someone in the NXT car park has been attacked. Oh no. Yet this now takes us to double figures the amount of people who have been brutalized in some way in this. I just want you to imagine, right? I don't know where you work, if you're furloughed, you work at home, or just when you had a job before all this happened, right? Where you worked, if there was a particular area of that where now 10 people had been hurt, would your place of business not do something? I don't know, maybe a camera up there, or just like one guard. I don't know. The NXT car park is the most dangerous place in pro wrestling, and for the life of me, why people continue to put their lives at risk by parking their car there is beyond me. Stay safe, guys. This is where the Lorcan Birch Everrise thing would have gone if I'd done it, but as I explained before, I haven't done it because there was no point in doing it, so it's not done. So here we are. How are you? Okay, it's time once again, my friends. I know you're sick to death of it, of talking about the Drake Maverick problem, because this is still a problem. One more time for those at the back. If Drake Maverick leaving WWE is a work, then the company have attempted to elicit interest in a pro wrestling tournament by leaning into the genuine life-altering despair currently being faced by the 36 million plus Americans who have lost their job as a result of all of this. And if it's not a work, then they have still tried to elicit interest in a pro wrestling tournament by leaning into the genuine life-altering despair felt by 36 million plus Americans who have lost their job during all of this, and then at the end of it are going to add one more person to that number. Either way, this is gross. This is not escapism, this is not entertainment, it is tone-deaf writing for a television show, and it gets down. And you know what? I think the reason this annoys me so much is because it is overshadowing some of the best work Drake Maverick has ever done. Almost certainly the best thing he's ever done in North America. Like, this match with Kushida was sensational, it was brilliant, it was absolutely amazing to watch, it was harrowing, it was heartfelt, and yes, you could argue that without this narrative of him losing his job, you wouldn't have that kind of investment in it, but I'm going to shock you here, there are a million other ways to add stakes to a wrestling match. A million. Do you know what? I've tried to ignore how good some of these matches have been in order to make this point about how bad the story is, but this one was just too good, and if you take all the bad stuff away from it in isolation, it's probably the best match they've done in a tournament full of best matches. I can't ignore that any longer. The match, just the match, gets an up. Right, your main event now, and my god, this ruled. I think purely in terms of bringing different elements to the table, right, I don't think WWE has a single pairing as good as Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai. Like, the former has done things with the women's power game you didn't ever think were possible, and Io Shirai just innovates and flies around the ring in ways you not only believe are possible, but didn't believe were safe. Like, the two of them just bring so much individually for a match. And you know what? If they weren't both playing amazing anti-heroes, this could have been one of NXT's greatest ever feuds, but just... How are you going to book that? Who are you ever going to boo? And yes, we only got 8 minutes tonight, but in contrast to some of the other 8-minute main events we've had lately, I'm thinking specifically Cole versus Dream and Riddle versus Thatcher, this felt like it filled the time perfectly. It felt like a match brilliant in isolation with enough left over behind to do something at, I don't know, maybe a takeover somewhere down the line. Whereas the other two were like, there you are, there's the match we promised. Idiots. My only criticism here is that by introducing Charlotte Flair, you took the spotlight away from the pair of them, and by doing another non-finish, it's just, I mean, we literally did this with Charlotte versus Io Shirai. That's now twice we haven't got to finish a great match on NXT, but alright, if it builds to a triple threat between all three of them, do I care? Nah, not so much. The match was class, it gets an up. What it's going to lead to in the future is going to be class, so that will probably get an up then, but not now. I liked it. And quickly before I go, it's time for the most important segment of the week. Bug Watch. Yeah, here it is, the jazzy groovy up I will automatically give NXT if they give a sight or sound of Rick Buggs a la Eric Bugenhagen, and I'm not even going to do the dramatic turnaround and wait for the thing because no, they just don't ever want to make us happy, but his Twitter has recently. He's been killing it over there. Go and follow him. So, there you have it. Those are all the ups and downs for this week's episode of NXT. Let me know what you made of them all in the comments below, and of course don't forget to like, share and subscribe. More importantly, it's Thursday, so I hope you're wearing yellow. Otherwise, you are in for it. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I have, of course, been Adam Clery, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.